everyone, to episode 99 pre-show. What a week of Destiny news. 3 days in a row of Strand article, abilities article, and then TWAB today. If you know you're a fan of Destiny, of course you're here. But man, if you're also a fan of the NBA at the same time, and like have any kind of like care about government news, you had State of the Union. Like this is just a week of just like nothing but news and news cycles and something new happening on Twitter. It felt like.
I didn't know the State of the Union happened. When did that happen?
When Kentucky lost to Arkansas.
I know LeBron. I know LeBron broke the scoring record. Kyrie got traded. KD got traded.
Yep.
I must have missed the State of the Union somewhere along there.
Yeah, Kentucky was losing to Arkansas when the State of the Union was going.
Yeah. Tuesday night. Yeah, Tuesday night was a bad night. It's a good thing. So I've been. I know I told you guys, but I've been on this little weight loss journey. Thought about doing like a weight loss stream, like a fit to fat, or a fat to fit rather stream. And
I'll do the other one for you.
You guys just gonna watch me like run on a treadmill and hate my life for like 45 minutes a day, and then but I don't have enough people to come in the stream and ask questions and all that to make it worthwhile. But it is something I thought about. If we ever get super famous, that's something you get to look forward to, is just a really fat guy running on a treadmill and just sweating profusely, like aggressively sweating pretty well.
I'll be in there with you, dog, if that happens.
My dog.
It'll be hard, though, to line up our times, but we'll make it work.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of our times have been quite difficult for the last like 3 weeks. I think this is the only time.
True.
This is like the only time all three of us are actually doing something.
Yeah, we like make it a point. All of us make a point of like every Thursday to be available.
That consistency is key. It's good.
It's all good. Yep. We still owe the people another nightfall.
Yep.
Yeah.
Jared knows we got to give the people what they want.
Yeah, it's what weapon is it this week? Silicone aroma, maybe?
No, I think it's a grenade launcher.
Oh,
the malicious birthright.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, that's good. Because
I remember it was corrupted, and I saw him like malicious. That's weird.
Yeah.
I'm pretty certain.
I like that.
I'm pretty sure you're right, Chad, because I saw people like, I don't really want to play the corrupted for malicious birthright.
Yeah, corrupted.
Like they're afraid of the corrupted or whatever.
Gotten pretty.
It's not.
It's gotten a lot easier. I felt like.
Yeah.
Got to give the people. All right, I'm posting in all these Discords, getting everybody in here. And we're about ready to get this party started. Is there anything else we need to pre-show wise we need to discuss?
And pre-show, I mean, we're kind of just bounty stacking, we're doing very casual Destiny things leading up until
Are you boys being wizards and warlocks on the new Harry Potter game, or are you keeping that to yourself so people don't judge you?
I'm not playing
I'm not playing it.
I'm not playing it, not because of any social issue. I'm just not playing it.
I'm both. I'm not a big Harry Potter fan in the first place, even though I read all the books. It just never grabbed me in a way. The books did, but everything else I was like, eh. And then all the other stuff. And I'm like, I have too many games to play anyway. I'm good. I'm fine. I got all the Mega Man games to play. I got all kinds of nonsense.
Oh, the Switch news. Did you see the Switch news from today?
Yeah, baby.
You can play old
They
Game Boy
had
games.
their direct, right?
Yeah. I already downloaded it, dog. I downloaded it last night.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw the Zelda. What is it? Is it Tears of
The
Tomorrow?
Kingdom.
There it is. It looked pretty mid. I'm gonna say it. Not. I say this full disclosure. Not a Zelda guy. I like the first Zelda where you bomb the door and get the boat and go across. I think that's like, what is that? A Link to the Past? Is that the first one? Like, I like that one. Didn't care about any of the other ones. So come at me. I'm gonna say Zelda is not near as good as people that love Zelda think that it is.
I mean, we already know Ryan's opinions are usually trash, so it's okay.
And I'm just gonna
still
say
love
this:
you, bud.
Breath of the Wild. It was good. I would say it's
Well, there you go.
closer
You
to
can
a
stop it
5.
right there.
It was closer to a 5 than a 10. I would say it's somewhere between like a 7 and a 7.5.
Jeez, that's fantastic. Coming from Mr. NotRyanFox, a 7.
What would you rate Breath of the Wild as?
I'd put it at like an 8, solid 8.
Okay, you know what? I can live with an 8. I'm just glad you don't say it's the greatest game ever made in a 10.
Oh no, it's not the greatest. There's plenty of times where you're just running and it's boring as hell. But
Okay.
the background, I like that it's not just full of music. It actually has just background ambient noise, which is cool. It's a fun game when you're doing stuff. But since it's so open, there's lots of time where you're not doing stuff.
Well, you
It's
need
a very
those-
fine game.
You need those times for
Yeah,
the load
fine.
screens for that Switch, you know.
Yeah, but once you get the motorcycle unlocked, you just riding all over the place. Then it's fun because then you can just have a party. It is fun though because in Breath of the Wild, they people created flying machines where they did like stasis and did magnesis and stuff and made a thing where you could fly it into the air. And the game devs are like, you know what? Let's just make that a real thing in the second one so we can control that they're doing this. So they showed off a flying machine, and I was like, "Ha, nice." Stealing ideas from
All
the
right.
players.
What all the good ones do. All right, are we ready to like actually do this here?
Yeah.
Sure.
Jared, you ready?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, clicking the button. Right, meow. Eyes up, Guardians. We are live for episode 99 of the Conqueror's Corner podcast. Today is February the 9th, 2023. I'm the Destiny bad boy, NotRyanFox, and I am here with my fire team, who all of you CCBs know by now. Jared?
Yeah, what a heck of a week when it comes to news and Destiny. And this week, Bungie just gave us so much of it. So I don't know if they're about to go radio silent last couple of weeks until Lightfall, but they gave us everything, I feel like, that we needed to know.
Jared, I don't know if you were paying attention, but they went radio silent for the entire month of January and December. And I'm also here with the chronicler himself, chadocero.
January and December were the beginning and middle month of this current season, so not surprising. But yeah, like Jared said, lots of stuff came out. I'm willing to bet that they will go slightly silent because Season of the Seraph's final event is this coming Tuesday. So people will be more talking about that, but we'll see what happens if anything. But I am happy something's going on.
And as a reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget that you can take us on the road via Spotify, iTunes, and all other podcast services. Make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, click the bell, turn on notifications, yada, yada, yada. Follow us on Twitter at DestinyCCPod. Send us Bungie friend requests so we can play games together. I believe that the Dirty Effing Hippie brought us the TWAB this week. But before we get to that, let's listen to everybody's favorite intro music, who you can hear from Link, who you can find on Twitter at LinkOfTimeG.
All right, everyone. So the first thing that's happened this week was on Tuesday. We got the Strand trailer, and at the same time, we got the Inside Strand article dump from the Destiny 2 dev team. So it really just like going to teach us the verbs. They're going to tell us about the aspects, tell us about some of the fragments and the grenades that was going to be going on with hunters, warlocks, and the most probably maybe the most controversial is Titans, depending on where you go to read at or who you're listening to. We'll be getting into maybe touching on that a little bit. So with most like subclasses, there's 3 verbs that go along. And with Strand, the 3 we will be having is suspend, unravel, and sever. So suspend is a suspended PvE enemy is lifted off the ground for a brief duration and is essentially disabled. In PvP, suspended players are lifted off the ground but can still move very slowly but fire their weapon back. Now, I think it's been said that firing your weapon back in PvP, you can only do it from the hip. You cannot ADS if you're suspended. So keep that in mind. So I'm sure that's going to be a pain point. Unravel. Attacking an unraveled enemy will cause threads to burst out of the target and attack other nearby targets. Once hit, that target will also become unraveled. And then finally, we have sever. A severed enemy is less capable of affecting the material world and reducing their damage output as a result. So someone that's going to be teaching this is Osiris, and that trailer kind of spelled it out that like Osiris is going to be heavily involved with this expansion.
I saw that, and I was always a big Osiris guy, but whenever he really ever since the whole Savathun, I guess really the last 2 years, I've kind of been a little disappointed in my boy Osi. I wish I liked him a lot more whenever he was just stuck in the Infinite Forest, going through all the timelines and was able to split himself. But the fact that, he got essentially possessed and turned into a triple B, he kind of dropped down my Destiny list of favorite people.
Yeah.
So Ikora is our queen at this point as a warlock.
Next up in Strand, there's a buff coming called Woven Mail, and with this ability, the Guardian is basically just gets Strand around them. Additionally, so they become a protective mesh of Strand matter, so they reduce incoming damage. And PvP though, you're also getting that damage resistance, but only with body shots. It doesn't account to headshots. So if you still want that optimal time to kill, and they have this Woven Mail, as long as you get your headshots, it's still going to be the same TTK.
Yeah, that's very much in line with mail armor, because it's usually covering chest, arms, and legs. So no head. Normally you need a helmet for that. So that makes sense in PvP especially. So as long as you're hitting headshots, don't matter if you got the mail on. So that's good.
All right, next up is basically what we're doing with grapple, and grapple is going into the grenade slot if you choose it. And there's a couple different ways to grapple. One is you can grapple out of thin air, and but if you throw your grapple and you do hit a wall or hit an object, you will grapple to that object and start to go. So a lot of fun. It's going to be going on there. They give like a lot of descriptions here of kind of basically like some of the actions you do in the trailer. So I really don't want to step on Kevin Jan's description here, but you should give it a read if you want to give it time. But first subclass here that we're going to talk about is the Warlock, and Fox, what we got going on here?
Well, let me unmute my mic here. So first we have the Warlock, the Brood Weaver. A quick quote, the Warlock is our Strand minion master. So basically all the space magic that Warlocks have, that's what we're going to use to utilize Strand. You kind of have to understand threadlings to understand how Warlocks will use those. They go on here. This is a direct quote. Threadlings are explosive minions woven from Strand matter. The Warlock Broodweaver, being the cerebral type, is more in tune with threadlings than the other classes. So pretty much we're just better than everybody else. And all the threadlings will run forward, jump on enemies, and then explode. But only the warlock threadlings will return to the warlock and travel with them when they can't find a target, which I think is a pretty cool way to kind of differentiate them from the other class. Since, we're smarter and we're more in tune with them, then, they kind of, I guess we're just better masters than the other classes is kind of how that reads. So here, this is another direct quote. Let's say I have 3 threadlings and I only need 2 of them to defeat an enemy. If I'm a warlock, the last one is going to run back, hop onto me, and condense down into a form that is orbiting me, which is known as perching. That's what I like to call whenever I sit on the couch for long amounts of time, is a perch. Then the next time that I attack an enemy, it will pop off and attack that same enemy, which really gives it the sense of having these minions of doing my bidding. They love me and they want to come back and hang out with me. So I think that this is pretty cool. So pretty much if I have 3, it only takes 1 or 2. The ones that remaining come back to me. It kind of seems like they're going to orbit around, and then when more bad stuff comes, they're going to go. It sounds a little similar to the Arc Buddy that we had. I'm not sure if that's exactly how it's going to play out, but that's kind of the way that I see it playing out. Whenever the warlocks, whenever they use their strand melee attack, they cast Arcane Needle, which is a deadly projectile which tracks targets, causing high damage and unraveling them upon impact. Warlocks will be able to quickly chain 3 Arcane Needle attacks in a row. I wonder if this is like the do you remember whenever the solar like Dawnbreaker melee was overpowered and you casted like a tracking projectile melee that like would go around a box and hit people? I kind of wonder if it's going to be like that. I wonder if it's going to be pre-nerf, but maybe like pre-nerf tracking, but less damage since you have 3 of them in kind of quick succession.
Yeah.
But until we get it, we don't really know. So they go on here in this little paragraph or 2 paragraphs and talk about the strand aspects that we have. We have Weaver's Call. So whenever you cast your rift, the warlock weaves 3 threadling eggs, which hatch into threadlings, and then they hit when they hit a surface. Any perched threadlings are converted into additional eggs. I'll be honest with you guys. I had to read this like 10 or 15 times to try to understand kind of exactly what's going on. I see Chad's laughing at me because apparently I'm just dumb and don't understand these things. So I cast like my healing rift or my empowering rift. The eggs come out, but I don't know, like it says when they hit a surface. So I don't know if that means that they automatically hit the ground around you whenever you cast your rift, or are you able to send them away to attach to a wall? Are you able to aim where they're gonna go? I imagine that it'd be like if you cast it in a corner, sometimes they'll hit the wall, sometimes they'll hit the ground. I don't really know because I think about like the rift, like the radius of the rift or the diameter of the rift. You don't have, it's not like a huge type thing. So I'm not real sure kind of how that's going to work out. But any perched threadlings are converted to additional eggs. So I imagine that's going to be one of those things. It'll probably be effective in the effect of, remember the stasis one you had to where anybody that was like within a certain radius of you, whenever you cast your rift, froze everybody in stasis.
Yeah.
I imagine it's going to be kind of like the first cousin of that, if I had to guess.
Okay.
Mind Spun. Sorry, didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I kind of feel like it's like a splash of colony coming out at your feet, and they just taking off.
That's kind of what I thought as well, but I'm not real sure because it says whenever they hit a surface. So that was kind of the part I was kind of unsure about.
Yeah, it doesn't really. Makes me think maybe there's something you can do while you're in air, but you're never able to cast a rift in air. So, yeah.
Then we have Mind Spun Invocation, and it just says this aspect improves several of the warlock's abilities. I assume that this is like cooldown wise. It's going to reduce the cooldown. I don't think it will be a damage increase, like with say like a grenade or a melee, I don't expect it to be like 1.25x damage. I would think it would be a quickening cooldown. Do you guys think it would be a damage increase, or are you thinking cooldown?
I think it's gonna. So it says when it improves the abilities. I think like when you spawn a threadling, like you're gonna do like an extra threadling can spawn, or like when you do a grapple, if you equip grapple grenade, you got 2 grapples on your grenade slot. I think that's what
Okay.
I'm thinking it's gonna be.
I'm reading this as similar to the way some of the aspects improve grenades for certain builds.
Mhm.
So if you have this, when you grapple, it makes eggs. When you consume a threadling grenade, you get more additional perched on you and stuff like that. So similar to how the Solar Warlock has the increased grenades, like they do extra stuff. I think it's going to work like that.
Okay.
But also to go back to your Rift thing, I think it's going to be similar to, you know how the Solar Warlock grenade, the sun one, it just shoots out like random little extra little bits. I think it's going to work like that. Like you're going to cast a Rift, and from the center there's going to be little threadlings that shoot out, and then if they land on something, they're going to hatch and or do nothing and then just come back.
That'd be cool. I'd be down with that. The grapple, whenever you execute a grapple melee, the Warlock weaves 3 threadling eggs from the target. The threadling grenade, you can consume your threadling grenade to generate a full complement of perched threadlings. This I thought was like, is there going to be an exotic, like maybe an exotic arm piece or something that gives you, instead of, it increases your max from 3 to 5 threadlings or something that might kind of work with this. So that would be a pretty easy exotic to do. So I kind of wonder if there's going to be something there. And then shackle grenade, you can consume your shackle grenade to gain a buff, creating a suspending detonation on every kill. I assume, and you guys, you know, sometimes I think too much into this stuff, but do you think that's basically going to, if you think about it as a fighting game, a move that pops the enemies into the air to where they're suspended and then they're not able to attack you and take more damage or something like that? Is that kind of what you guys think that that's going to be?
So
well, it's on every kill. So once you kill, it's going to be like headstone, where the thing's going to die, and then there's going to be a pulse of stuff that suspends the enemies
pops
nearby,
everybody.
which is one of the debuffs, is the suspend, one of their vocabulary words for this. So they're going to be puppets on a string, anything that's really close by the thing you kill.
So to me, it kind of sounded like a firefly or an incendiary or whatever that perk is, to where like instead of like blowing up, it's gonna cause them to pop into the air. Is that, which to me seems pretty crazy. It seems like it would be a pretty cool like if you're doing like ad clear or like ad control, you could do some pretty cool stuff with that, I think.
yeah, think of the linear fusion rifle. That's the void one.
Lorentz
driver. So
'Cause it
remember
sucks
when
them
it
in?
just sucked everybody from like way far away? That's the same thing is going to be happening in the
How
PvP.
could I forget, Jared?
Yeah.
and then it
How could I
suspends
forget?
everything because it gets sucked in. So that'd be so dumb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So last but not least, our super is called Needle Storm, which is, quote, a deadly combination of burst damage and area denial. On cast, the Warlock conjures Strand matter into a fusillade of hardened spikes, launching them forwards with a wave of their hand. The missiles will stick into the enemies, and the environment alike will be detonating and reweaving themselves into an army of threadlings that will hunt down any survivors. To me, it sounds more of a area control super as opposed to like a damage super. But we'll see. The Warlocks, we don't have a lot of like damage supers. You know, most of our stuff is, and the damage supers that we do have, like the arc one, and those things, or outside of Nova Bomb, most of our damage stuff is stuff that takes a while to cast. It's not like a burst damage super whatsoever.
I do think this is going to be used very closely to the way Nova Bomb is, and how it could, like, you
I
got
hope so, man.
this initial burst, and then the threadlings do some extra damage over time.
Yeah, I hope so. I'm sure that I imagine that at some point of the 4 seasons, we'll get some sort of exotic that maybe improves that. to take it maybe more towards a damage super, or threadlings. Threadlings produce, create, or do more damage, or have more health, or something like that, I would say. But moving on from there, I think Hunter was next, Jared.
Yeah. So the basically everybody has access to grapple, and like I think Bungie said this in one of their videos that originally it was only going to be on the hunters, and the reason for that is hunters are going to be taking this movement and speed into an entirely new level from attacking multiple enemies at once while midair, and to using a new rope dart weapon to their benefit to maximum agility. And no wonder that playing a thread runner has been compared to the thrill of watching a superhero come to life. So I think a lot of people has made that comparison to Spider-Man's kind of what we're going to feel like threading and like grappling through a city. It's gonna be pretty cool. So coming up here with the hunter's melee attack, it's going to be the threaded spike, and the hunter is going to be hurling out a rope dart that bounces between enemies and damaging and severing them before returning to the hunter. Upon its return, it grants melee energy for each enemy hit, and hunters can also catch the rope dart by pressing the melee button input again at the right possible time to catch it, and then you get even more melee energy back. So I think that's going to be pretty cool. It's a a little bit of I wouldn't say a skill ceiling. It's going to be like more of a timing ceiling of just putting your time in and getting that timing done. And I think that should be really fun for hunters to always keep that melee energy up and going. So hunters are starting out with two aspects, just like everybody else. So the first one is ensnaring slam. While in the air, pressing the air move input to slam downward, suspending all nearby enemies. So it's now shadow dive, and everybody around you goes up into the air. It only can shoot from the hip. So get ready. It's gonna be fun. Just I think everybody just needs to accept. Just needs to accept. Strand is going to be really powerful for 9 months. It is what it is. Everybody's going to be using it.
What if it was only 6 months? Would you feel better about it?
Nah. Well, I mean, every 2 years we get a new subclass. I'm okay with it.
Okay. Somebody mark that down.
I never complained about stasis, by the way. I was always hunter, so I was good. All right.
You were the stasis guy. You were the problem, sir.
I was. The second aspect is Widow's Silk, and this aspect grants additional grenade charge. The hunter's grapple ability creates a persistent grapple tangle when it latches, and when it fully refunds grenade energy when grappled to it. So hunters can use this ability to set up chains of grapples and points that their entire team can use, and greatly enhancing their ability to quickly move around in combat and traverse the environment. So if you have a buddy that struggles with some jumping puzzles, you can throw a grappling point out there to help them get across some of these troubled areas. So that's going to be it's going to change jumping puzzles and change some of these speed runs and everything else that's going to be going on in Destiny. It's going to be fun. So the super, it's going to be called Silk Strike. When activated, the hunter uses their grapple to freely move through the world in third-person view, while also throwing the rope dart to strike down enemies. Hunters will be able to use grapple more often during the super, and the rope dart features both light and heavy attacks. The light attack, meant for a single opponent, can be used in air and on the ground when you're grounded with the chain, and then you're going to be so it's the same animation as your melee, but you're doing it in third person, so that's always cool. And you're going to be tangling there and then doing a heavy attack, which you'll swing around the rope dart in a 360 arc, damaging enemies nearby. So you're kind of just setting them up with light attack, getting them all tangled up, and then you're doing the heavy attack to knock them all down. And this kind of reminds me of one of the Mortal Kombat characters. Is it Scorp? What? Help me out, Fox here. What is it? Scorpion that has the chain?
Get over here.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's Scorpion.
Yeah. So I think that was an inspiration behind this hunter stuff. And here's Titan coming up here, Chad, ready to melee something, right?
Ooh, yep. Just like everybody hates, apparently. I just want to punch stuff and read a book. Like that's my happy night right there. So we have the Titan Berserker. So its melee ability is the Frenzied Blade, which is like a trio of melee attacks where you swing, 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 and you can set up as a combo doing all three very quickly, or doing them one at a time if you only have one enemy at a time. But the Titan dashes forward, slashes with the Strand arm blades, the same thing you see in the Super, which severs them and decreases their damage output. And then you can, again, like I said, you can target three things, just go as a chain, going bang, bang, bang to each thing. Now, the two aspects they got, the one is Into the Fray, destroying a tangle weaves woven mail onto the Titan and nearby allies. In addition to reducing damage taken, it increases the Titan's melee energy regeneration. So while you have woven mail, you can do more melees and make more things suspend, so that you can or more sever more things, so that people are safer. They do less damage to you, and you can continue to keep punching and severing things. The next one is Drenger's Lash. When the Titan casts their class ability, the Titan will blast forward a powerful ripple in reality, suspending the enemies. Now, we saw last week. Thank you, Ryan. We saw last week that there is an exotic that makes it so that 3 lashes go out. So it adds 2 to the initial one added from this aspect here. Now the Titan's super is called Blade Fury, which is essentially a super version of their regular melee attack, which free roams, slashes them left and right with the light ability. And once enough things, it looks like connecting light attacks builds energy for the super's heavy attack, and with the heavy, the Titan hurls a pair of projectiles forward that seek out enemies, suspending and damaging them on impact. So once you slash enough stuff, you shoot out. I'm assuming you shoot out the arm blades, and then they go seek something and then do damage, and then you keep slashing at stuff. So it's just again very combo oriented here. Slash slash slash, heavy attack, slash 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 slash, and just a bunch of stuff like that. So very simple, very much into punching and slashing things with arm blades. I mean, I'll have to play with it to see if it's any fun or not, but it sounds interesting at least. I don't know what kind of super people would invent if they don't want another I'm just punching a bunch of stuff super from a Titan. I mean,
the Titan's got like, green bugle arms. What's he supposed to do? He's supposed to go punch something.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying, dog. Like Titans punch. That's what we do. What else are we gonna do, man, with Strand? Like I ain't gonna make a string with a blade on the end of it. I ain't gonna shoot threadlings around. I'm gonna punch stuff.
Listen, I'm just saying somewhere around Mortal Kombat 4, Scorpion started having a sword. He never had a sword before Mortal Kombat 4, so maybe it's time for Titans to evolve and become something a little more than just the Mike Tysons of Destiny. You know what I mean?
Arm blades are dope.
Maybe let's mix the uppercut. Let's mix the uppercut in. Let's do something.
So we have 4 fragments they're telling us about going in. So normally with this subclass change, these new subclasses, after the day 1 raid, there's usually more aspects gets unlocked. There's usually a couple more aspects that they just haven't told us yet that's going to be available day 1 or whenever you unlock. So the first one is a Thread of Ascent. Activating your grenade ability reloads your equipped weapon and grants increased weapon handling and AE for a short time. Thread of Fury, damaging targets with Tangle, grants melee energy. Thread of Finality, finishers generate threadlings. I think that is awesome. And a Thread of Warding, picking up an orb of power grants you woven mail. I think that one is also pretty good there. So 4 aspects.
Do you guys think whenever we're in contest mode, do you expect any of our 6 to be in Strand subclass?
Yes.
I'm gonna say no.
Yes.
You say yes?
Do. Yeah.
I think Warlock. It's going to depend upon like how strong those settlings are, but it's going to be hard to get away from those turrets.
I mean, like your whole thing is suspension, so being able to do something that makes enemies stop shooting at us is great.
Like a freeze turret.
Yeah. Like a freeze turret. Yeah. So
I kind of feel like we're going to have an encounter that it's going to be a speed encounter mixed with just straight clear. It's kind of like going to be super hectic for just like you have to get across a room, you have to get across this stuff, and it's going to be like grappling, suspending
that deep
stuff.
Stone, that deep stone encounter where you have to take the relics all the way through.
The deep stone with the relics all the way through. Am I missing?
Yeah, like the one where you got to take like the Aegis shield and the nut.
Oh, that's Val. Yeah.
Val.
Sorry.
Acquisition.
Yes, so. Wasn't that the yeah that one that encounter, that nightmare of an encounter?
Yeah. I think it's going to be that, but a little less stoppage and more like you have to keep moving. And stuff. So yeah, I think at least one person will end up being on Strand for some of these, not a boss phase encounter, not
the puzzle encounters.
Yeah. All right, so that is our Strand breakdown from the trailer and the article. Mr. Shifty's in chat. What's up, Shifty? Next up is future abilities. So if you want the TLDR for these abilities changes, during the 30th anniversary patch, the way cooldowns was and everything, we're kind of going back to there. And tier 10 is becoming tier 8 cooldown. And abilities are going to be just brought in, just a hair. So that's the general of the cooldown changes. Next up, Hunter's dodges. They're actually getting kind of reverted back to what I was just complaining about 3 weeks ago. So Marksman's dodge is going from 34 seconds to 29 seconds. And Gambler's dodge is going from 46 to 38. But also at tier 10, it's now tier 8. So it's kind of going to feel basically where it is now. There's a lot of, like on your class item and on your gauntlets, there's a lot of ways to reduce cooldowns from your class ability, melee kickstart, bomber, outreach. And so with this new armor changes, there's going to be lots of ways for us to slot multiple of these mods on our characters. So really just you can still lean into like, gotta keep my dodge up. I gotta keep my dodge up. So you can still lean into reducing the cooldown with your dodge. Roaming supers have kind of been not used that much in PvP and PvE because a lot of times these one-off supers are just so much more impactful to the game or to the raid or a dungeon. So roaming supers are going to get a buff here. Increase the maximum number of orbs that can be created from defeating targets from 5 to 7. And then one-off supers is going to decrease the amount of orbs that can be produced created from defeating targets from 7 to 5. And that orb power generation from Well Radiance, Word of Dawn, and Shadow Shot variants is unchanged. There's some super cooldowns that was just too high, and that's Hammer of Soul, Daybreak, and Spectral Blades. The base cooldowns coming from 10 minutes 25 seconds to 9 minutes 16. I don't know how much you all played PvP this last season or two. Word of Dawn is just everywhere now. Word of Dawn is just it's almost like you win in the round in trials whenever you get it up. So they're reducing the health in PvP the health of the bubble from 13,500 to 8,000. And then damage dealt to Word of Dawn by PvE combatants has been reduced to compensate for this. and then damage from players is upped against when shooting at a Ward of Dawn, and then Armor of Light, which you get from inside the bubble. Maximum health comes down from 425 to 300, and it no longer negates precision damage multiplier. So Titans are going to be easier to kill. But they are going to buff Void Overshields in PvE again, so now it's going to be a 50% damage resistance. Since they move the health down, you're going to get more resistance overall. A little bit of a nerf here to Thunder Crash. The maximum flight time goes from 5 seconds to 4.5, and they reduce the damaging volume around a player in a fight by 20%. And this basically makes it a little more, gotta be more direct with your Missile Titan in PvP. And all these like little like radius changes is basically what it's getting. To go down in radius is not effective in PvE. Fist of Havoc in PvE is basically just never used, so they're upping the damage in PvE by 20%. I think Spark Resistance is something that everybody used on their Arc subclass because it was so easy to proc. It's now going to you have to be close to 3 enemies instead of 2, and its lingering time after you get out of that situation is going down to 2 seconds from 4. So I think that's just an overall nerf a little bit to the most popular PvE Titan right now. Chad is the most light Thunder Crash Titan Storm Nades.
Yeah, pretty much. They're doing everything to bring it in line.
Yeah,
about time.
Which we haven't got an article about exotic nerfs buffs that might be happening in the next couple of weeks. It'd be interesting.
It's called tuning.
Tuning.
Okay.
It is called tuning now. Yeah. So Fox, we got a couple of Warlock changes here with Daybreak and Phoenix Dive.
Yeah, so with Solar 3.0, the increased Daybreak duration was removed, and that's left Daybreak in a lackluster place. I definitely agree with that. As somebody that doesn't play PvP, I cannot even remember the last time I had the non-well Daybreak super equipped. So they are going to reduce the super energy cost from 10 to 6.5 per swing. So not quite twice as many swings, but pretty close to it there. And then it's going to increase the PvE damage by 25%. Phoenix Dive, which was sounded a lot cooler in concept than it did when actually playing. So it's basically just right now, you're not going to pick it over a healing or empowering rift. So they are decreasing the base cooldown from 82 to 55 seconds, while Heat Rises is active, which is whenever you basically eat your grenade. And Phoenix Dive's restoration increased from 1 second to 3 seconds. While Daybreak is active, Phoenix Dive cooldown is reduced, allowing for rapid reactivations. And while Daybreak is active, Phoenix Dive's detonation maximum damage increased from 80 to 220, which is not quite 3 times the amount, but pretty close to 3 times the amount. So that's going to be something that people that are a lot better at the game than myself are going to use in order to deal some damage. That with like the air dash and things, is I would say you're probably going to see an increase back in that, especially on like the trial stuff. Whenever you're trying to get to a spot to hit a lane before the other team, I would say you could get there pretty quick. And now with that Phoenix Dive stuff, it's going to be pretty sick, I would say.
Yeah, actually, what it makes me like, because if you get that 100 Rico, that's usually what you're running with the Warlock. That you'll be able to do that about every 30 seconds. So that's pretty great. All right, next up is Guardians sometimes can get Eagle Edge, Titan Shoulder charged into some hard objects or get hit by a Phalanx Shield and a lot of stuff like that, and you just instantly die to the Architects. So they're kind of nerfing the physics of Destiny a little bit, so now it will leave you at 1 HP after such a big physics moment happens and you got a chance to live.
So this is definitely because the Bungie devs and the playtesters were getting destroyed by Strand momentum, right?
That seems like the case. Like grapple up a huge area, and then like you're falling, and then yeah.
Right. That's the very first thing I thought of whenever I read it. Like, oh, they're
Yeah.
dying a lot to the architects.
Yeah.
So time to nerf the architects.
All right, so next up is new aspects for a lot of the light 3.0 subclasses that has went on here, and Chad, what's going on here with Arc?
With Arc, we're getting the it looks like they're all new ones for Arc. It's Spark of Instinct. When critically wounded, taking damage from nearby enemies emits a burst of damaging arc energy that jolts targets. And then Spark of Haste. You have greatly increased resilience, recovery, and mobility while sprinting. So it keeps you up with that. Got to go fast because when you're amplified, you go super speed. So when you're doing that, now you're stronger, better, and faster. So you're good to go there. And then yeah, I mean that arc energy that jolts targets. Oh man, running that including oh god, there's the Titan or gauntlets, the Warmindy ones. Oh gosh.
Wait,
Anyway, those ones when you're meleeed,
yeah. Feedback
they
fence.
send out a pulse of damage. Feedback fence, yeah. So imagine that with this.
Feedback fence.
Oh, it's gonna be a fun time.
So before I go into the solar ones here, are these going to be things that we can just walk up and buy from Ikora on day one, or are we going to have to unlock this BS?
I hope it's not even buy. I hope they just unlock them. Because look at the amount of solar and void ones that we get. They cost like 10 to 20 grand each. So we're just going to be out of Glimmer immediately upon starting the game.
No way Bungie would ever do that.
I didn't really think about that.
But it's the rest of it was not unlockable. It was just go to Ikora and you're done.
Yeah. So hopefully that's all that this is. Solar, we got the Fire Sprite, which is a new one. Fire Sprites are created by a suite of new and existing solar fragments and grant grenade energy on pickup. Ember of Mercy, which is new. When you revive an ally, you and other nearby allies gain restoration. Picking up a Fire Sprite grants restoration. This, I'm not sure when this would be useful, other than like maybe trials or something. This is not really a PvE. You guys don't die enough for me to pick you up.
I disagree. It's the Fire Sprite. It's the Fire Sprite portion of that. When you pick up a Fire Sprite and get restoration, because when you create,
you guys don't die. I don't have to revive you. Ever.
We can create Fire Sprites from killing stuff.
Yeah.
If we have Fire Sprite builds, then they'll be everywhere.
I don't know. I'll have to see it in action, I suppose. Okay. And then we got the Ember Resolve, Solar Grenade, Final Blows, Cure You. This seems pretty rad, especially with that the build, not Phoenix Protocol, but the other Starfire Protocol. That chess piece, that exotic chess piece. So that could get just ignorant, probably to the point to where it's going to be nerfed come day one raid time, if I had to guess.
Yeah.
Ember of Tempering now creates a Fire Sprite on solar weapon kills. Ember of Combustion now creates a Fire Sprite on solar super defeats. Ember of Searing now creates a Fire Sprite when defeating scorched targets. So should be just something to kind of mix up the old stuff a little bit to make them feel a little rejuvenated whenever the new expansion drops.
Yeah, a lot of these new fragments were created because wells are going away. So we have to get these new verbs in here that take place of that. So Void Breach. Void Breaches are created by a selection of new and existing Void fragments and grant class ability energy on pickup. So we have Echo of Consolation. Finisher final blows create a burst of void damage that causes nearby enemies to become volatile. Defeating volatile targets creates a void breach. Echo of Vengeance. Defeating a target when your shields are depleted grants you a temporary void overshield. So, if you pair this with something, I don't know, One-Eye Mask, you're just getting mad amounts of health back. So, watch out for that.
Oh, I don't know.
Echo of Domineering now creates Void Breach when defeating suppressed targets in addition to its original effects. Echo of Harvest now creates Void Breach when defeating weakened targets with precision damage in addition to original effects. Echo of Starvation now grants Devour on picking up a Void Breach in addition to the original effects. So I think some of these aspects is really just like this. Some of these builds that's going on. So I'm thinking of Gryfalcon with the Void Pulse Rifle from Val. Why have I slipped my mind on that one?
You made it leave my head.
Yeah. Gosh.
I wasn't listening, so I can't help you.
Yeah. So, but anyways, like you keep your debuffs going.
Collective Obligation.
Yes, Collective Obligation. That is like kind of gotten
favorite
better.
exotic.
It gotten better with this, and kind of what Fox mentioned. The build with Starfire got even better too. So.
Oh man, you'll be able to sit up because Starfire has been glued to my Warlock as a solar. And if you sit in an Empowering Rift and throwing grenades, now you're getting healing as well as empowerment. And when you kill things while in the Empowered Rift with the right build, that gives you more grenade energy back. Mm-hmm. So you'll just be like grenade, just shoot stuff, another grenade, shoot stuff, another grenade. It's gonna be incredible.
Pretty sweet.
All right. Finally, the TWAB is going to be talked about. And what's going on here is just basically a summary of what we just talked about. Next, Syria and Turkey experienced some pretty big earthquakes at 7.8 magnitude. So in the relief fund, you can go donate $25 to get a green emblem that has some like ripples through it. It looks like almost like a like ripples, like when you drop a pebble in a pond and the waves go out. So pretty cool emblem there to support those. Next up is lag, and basically Valve on Steam, they've been toying with some stuff recently, and last Friday they finally turned it off about the way some coding wasn't matching up between whatever Bungie did and what Valve done. So they're going to be working through that to improve it in the future. Strand armor glows. So like if you have Solstice armor or some of these other armors that have a subclass glow to them, it's going to work with Strand. So you're going to get some pretty cool green glows to your armor that's already there. And of course, Strand is going to work with Elemental Capacitor, Osmosis, Dragonfly, Verity's Brow, Bombardiers, Mantle Battle Harmony, like everything that like it coincides to your subclass. Strand is also going to work with those exotics and those perks on your guns. Yeah, there is a reminder that some resources are going away. And Chad, what's this one about weapon changes that's coming up here?
Ooh, well, I wasn't ready for that, but I remember that I was talking to Jared about specifically the changes to the resonance. So let's see here. The changes are that resonant elements they're removing completely from the game, so you don't need those anymore for crafting. You're still obviously going to need glimmer, enhancement cores, and stuff like that. Resonant and harmonic alloys, which you get for dismantling raid weapons and regular legendary weapons, are going to still be used, but they're planning to overhaul those currencies as well. And then it looks like the ascendant alloys will remain as is for now. They said for now. Which means that they have ideas, but we'll see if they implement them in the future anyway. But that's it. It looks like you don't have to store red borders in order to get resonant elements anymore. You just need to make sure you have the glimmer and the cores, and you're good to go.
Yep. So they're kind of changing the way weapon frames are going to be happening in Lightfall. Then, so it's like you don't need to level it up. It's going to be a lot more streamlined. The votes are in. So Hunters got 50% of their vote for Team Spider. Titans got 72% of their votes for also Team Spider. And then Warlocks at 53% are Team Beetle. So you are pleased with the results? Is that what you voted for? I know that's what I voted for Hunter, so it made sense for me.
I don't really care, to be honest. Doesn't matter to me.
That's
Probably
how I
not
voted
ever
for
gonna
all
use
three
it.
of those. Every single one, except the Titan helmet's better than the Spider helmet, the Titan Beetle one. I like the Hercules Beetle horn on it, but the rest of the armor looks way better on the Spider.
All right. That is it for the news, finally, that Bungie has put out for us to talk about. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. New subclass is going to be a lot of fun moving through the air and just completely changing the way we interact with some PvE enemies. So look forward to that. All right. Now it's time for 3 likes and 3 dislikes. So playtime this week has been mostly solo. Still doing some weekly bounties from the Dreaming City, doing those Ascendant challenges. Got this week and 2 more weeks of it to get them all. I'll have them all banked on all characters as my goal. And also I did some duality soloing, and I finished the dungeon solo, but did die in the boss room once when I had the boss below 50% health. It just got cut on a wall along the side hallway, where normally the boss goes to the center of the room and just stands at the door that you need to open. But this time it didn't, and it came all the way to the hallway, spammed down the entire side. Didn't have my healing grenade on me. I was like at 95% of my cooldown, and I died. So that's tough, but I got the solo done. So now I just need to get a cowboy hat, and I have the title, which I've yet to get on any character.
Thoughts and prayers, Jared.
Yeah.
My like this week was I'm starting to get excited for that new. You know what I mean? It's we're getting close. In my car I keep like a calendar that has like the weeks of my vacation and how many days I have left. And I was like, oh, we're getting real close, real close to time. So I saw that and I was kind of like, oh, I only have, like 2 more weeks of work and then I'm on vacation. So I kind of start a countdown today. So that's my like this week.
Oh man. I got a couple countdowns on my own, this one and then end of March. So I'm excited to actually have stuff to do this year. But my like is that the Cabal have been confirmed as marsupials. I think this is the first sci-fi sentient race that I've come across that is a marsupial or a marsupial-like. So that's definitely neat. We'll get into it in the lore, which Ryan's slightly confused face will then make sense. I'm sure he knows what marsupials are because I know he loves Australia very much and some of Madagascar. Yeah. Now my dislike is that I miss the boys. Like we said earlier, we've only these past like 2 weeks at least have only really seen each other on Thursdays because we got you guys and we want to talk to you guys and we want to hang out. So this gives us an excuse to hang out, but mostly to to make some content for everybody and get together and just have a good time. But yeah, we haven't been gaming together. It's been sad. Like it is nice to see people like Shifty getting on and being like, hey, anyone want to raid? And I'm like, oh my gosh, people are playing again. Like some people are getting into the last bit of the season so they can get some stuff before the expansion comes out. So I'm sure I'll be playing with Shifty this weekend, if anything, if not tonight. But I miss the boys. I miss the squad.
I understand that. I don't think I've played any games since the last podcast. I literally think I have like 0 Steam hours. Uh, Maybe like 2 or 3 doing nightmare containments in order to get this Callus mini tool thing completed, but it's 3 full containments plus like in one of the keys in order to get 2 a week, and it's just like, man, do I really want to do this? Why am I doing this? But my dislike is watching my wife play that new Harry Potter Hogwarts Legacy game, because I'm like watching her play the game over her shoulder, and I'm not playing any games. So it's kind of like, what am I doing? Why am I just sitting here watching a random Monday or Tuesday night of NBA basketball / my wife playing Hogwarts Legacy and not playing games myself? So that's my dislike this week. I dislike myself.
Oh man. Um, my dislike, I was kind of struggling with this week because I've just been so casually like in the game because I got stuff to do, and my dislike is that we haven't ran Kingsfall in forever, and I need to get the Touch of Malice Catalyst run done, and you all don't even have Touch of Malice, so like that's my dislike, is like the lack of Touch of Malice in our life.
I agree, Jared. I agree with that 100% on your dislike. But moving on from there, we're at Gambling Corner. We're still kind of at the same place from there. So basically, whenever we complete the last section, that's going to put us where we need to be. I think it's going to kind of butt me into first place if things continue like they're looking. So suck it, Jared, and suck it, Chad. But moving on from there, we are at Lore with the chadocero. And I think this week we are talking about Keitel from the Lightball Collector's Edition. Is that right, Chad?
That is correct. We're talking about her section of that, or as one of the devs called it, which everyone laughed about, Kaya Tall. So we're reading that little. It was weird, man. I don't understand.
It was Joe Blackburn.
That's the one. So we're starting off, and it is that lore book that came, one of the 3. Next week we're going to be talking about Elsie Bray, but it starts off, I am 3. My father is pregnant again. The woman standing guard over his brood bower is not my mother. My father invites me to visit him while he nurses her young, but I am afraid to pass her. Her tusks are huge, huge. She greets me kindly and gives me a scraping stick to scratch my father's hide. I do not understand where my mother has gone, and the stories Atsja tells me mates stay together their whole lives. But Atsja is a scion. Maybe there are things about mates that scions do not know. I go into the bower. I ask my father if my mother is dead. He draws me close. He asks me to sing to my new siblings. His belly is soft and strong, fat with the brood pouches where the babies grow. I watch one climb to find his teat. I know that mother and father mate, but that mother gestates the young and delivers them to the father's pouches. That father broods them until they are weaned. Atsja taught me how the mother must stand guard while he is sessile and vulnerable. She must keep the other females away from him, lest he discard her offspring and take on the brood of another female. I ask my father if this is really true. Can a father choose to forsake his children? Of course, my father says. That's how you know that I love you. I could have turned you out of me, and I did not. He tickles me, and I laugh. I am centuries old. I am beating an assassin to death, their helmet splinters in my fists. Their taunt rings in my sinuses. You are a child in a general's costume, none of the vision of your father, none of the drive or strength of the one they call Dominus. You will not be remembered. My father put those words in the assassin's mouth. He put the blade in the assassin's hands. I've been stabbed in the rib cage, but the ribs of the Cabal are a closed vault. We evolved to face our enemy. I've been shot in the arm, but I wear armor, even in private. I've been shot in the hand, but I have another to make a fist. I break the assassin's skull as I broke my father's heart. I send the enacting blade back to him, as he will one day send it back to me. I am 3. Something has gone wrong between the woman and my father. I slide on my greased belly throughout the palace halls, pretending I am a whale kayak. Guards smile at me and I smile back, but I keep my ears pressed to the floor. Nearby, the woman bellows in his chambers. She says that he has not kept his political promises to the ex-pretorate families that approved their match. He is so wounded, he says. Doesn't his luscious body delight her? Doesn't the right to fill his pouches with her young bring her joy? She says she is not sexist, and this is not the era of lead. She worries about police, policy, and external security, not his lusciousness. He complains that she does not make him happy. She says there is more to life than happiness. He disagrees. She calls him weak. He calls her a curse and a killer. She roars and strikes him. I gasp into the floor. It is the first time I have ever heard my father in the pain. The guards stand very still. Then there is a terrible sound. I'm too young to understand it. Is the sound of a father opening his brood pouches. I do not want them anymore. My father, the emperor, says quite softly, if you cannot love me, then how could they? You can find another male with open pouches, some barracks beau, but be sure I never know him. I will not have byblows. The large-tusked woman screams in rage. She stampedes out past the guards, past me. Her hands are full of little things. I am 35 years old. I have just returned to the palace from my first deployment on the cruiser Adelaide Talal. Showing our banner in the Sindhu marches, I saw no action. I feel like a fraud, the sheltered Princess Imperial who never left the rails of her father's brood pouch. He was demanded that the Advocate General promote me to the staff position back home. She has refused. In a tantrum, father throws a tremendous celebration to commemorate my return. The streets of Torabatal run pulpy with trampled fruit. The skies rain in cloud fries, stunned by fireworks. I escape my attendants and stand in a corner of the palace ballroom drinking pollened water and pretending I am back in my fighter. Your name is a prayer for war, the Advocate General says. I snap to attention. She laughs at me and offers a small harpoon of canapes and cocktails with a middling-sized shrub. I decline and she tisks. You should enjoy yourself. It's your party. Although we both know it is his party. My father named me for a star. I say, nothing to do with war. Yes, but the star, Keitel, was named for a myth. Not an old homeworld myth either. A myth from the age of sails, when we conquered the stars. Surely you know it, assuming that you've been briefed on the Oxa. The Odile Zenitaph Archive, sometimes Oxta, depending on how you constructed the acronym. The alien oracle that led us to the graves of Ark. Must be wary now, Oxa is a scion myth, and the scions are a sensitive topic. My father wants to free them from bondage. It claimed to record the story of the galaxy and to prophesize what may yet come. A black box for galactic civilizations, if you prefer it in pilot terms. The Advocate General nods to the pin on my right pauldron. I'm conscious of my shaved-down tusks, of the sores left by the fighter's interface. The doomed and the damned left the record of their downfall in the Oxa. Your star got its name from the oldest myths in that archive, and when your mother told your father that story, the star became your name, a prayer that will go as it must, and the way it must go is struggle. Ayat. Not a word in Ulurant or any other Cabal tongue, but Keitel means something else. Yes, it may not always go as it needs to go, a good name for a soldier. A strange name for a daughter, I say. Your father chose it for your mother's sake, out of love. I remain at attention. I do not look at her. So she's dead. The Advocate General looks sharply at me. I can tell by the motion of her cocktail shrub in the edge of my vision. He never told you. No. Well, she sounds genuinely shocked. Then it is not my place. Advocate General, a junior pilot should not address her senior official so directly. But we are in the palace, and I am the Princess Imperial. What does your name mean? She grins. Her tusks are huge. My parents were soldiers. Soldiers know mythology too. I am 7 years old. We are the Brunth bloodbath. Watching the games, gladiators strive atop live whales drowning in a sea of wine. The defending champion Ulurunth pilots the whale named Denouncer from a cage of iron. Afterwards, we will see the whales rendered down, their blubber turned to candles, their hearts and sweetbreads auctioned off. My father explains to me how the rite of proving predates all written Cabal history, how it was illustrated in the deep caves where ancient females scraped the rocks with their tusks to make the first art. The challenger's gladiator is named Gaul. He is an outcast, as low as a slave, but he is mighty. My father admires him. I was a slave once, he tells me. He only speaks so openly when we are alone together, as if he's talking to himself. I was utterly under the control of the praetorate. I was prince designate, and it was my job to promise a brighter future while they made their miserable progress. The empress before me was so old that her whole body was turning to bone. That's what happens to us, you know, if we live too long. In ancient days, those who ossified would be honored as statues and carried about the herdlands to share their final wisdom. Her ruling days were coming to a close, but the praetorate, those canny slave mongers, they wanted her to remain on the throne so they could avoid the chaos of succession. They put her on a ship modeled after a land whale. Its mouth was a scoop, so it would never have to stop to refuel. They accelerated it to the edge of light and flew it in an endless procession around our worlds, so that the Empress, fossilized in slow time, would never die, so that I would never assume the throne. What happened to the old Empress? I asked. Oh, she took her own life, I think. Who could go on living that way? Is that what happened to my mother? Patient Gaul makes his move, leaps between whales, hurls Ulurunth off the top of her whale's control cage. She plunges 16 meters and vanishes into the denouncer's navel. The crowd roars. By Acreus, the announcer screams. She is into the haft. She is struck in the whale's belly. He has killed her. He has won the bell. My jubilant father leaves me in his box and goes down to meet his Gaul. I envy the gladiator who consumes my father's attention. I resolve to meet him myself. Much later in my life, I will learn that the females who carved the first art in those caves were scraping lithium from the rock. It was a folk remedy for dark moods. I'm 38 years old. I drown in the cockpit of my ship. Pressure gel surrounds and fills me. Tiny implanted pumps circulate the gel through my lungs and sinuses, through all the empty spaces of my body, and so that I am one contiguous, equally dense mass, without difference inside of me. So there are no weak places which can break and crush. For the first time, I truly understand the Advocate General and the reason she fears my father's reforms. They create differences. Differences can be points of failure. My fighter accelerates to 30 felt gravities, down through a shaking ionosphere of gas giant. Across the space, the storms below. The Sindhu escadrille flees from Adel to Lal, and I pursue. It is the cruiser's job to run the marathon, and the fighter's job to make the final sprint to interception. Our heroes are not the nimble Sindhu fighters. Ours are heavy missile sleds built for tough anatomies and roaring engines, booming ahead of the cruisers to release their payloads. It is risky. Chase your prey too far before weapons release, and you'll be stranded in an unavoidable intercept vector, damned by kinematics to plunge through the Sindhu formation, clawing out with guns and CIWs, trying to survive your suicidal plummet through foes bloodied by your missile strike. Under the strain, my wingman's aorta shears off his heart. I am stronger. I wait, crushed by acceleration of my ship's haste, until my missiles signal they are 90% bracket. I fire. The Sindhus answer with jamming, with decoys and interceptors. With the final close-in fire of their guns, they answer well. 6 little pinpricks of white light, 6 kills. Another 3 survive, 3 against 1, and no Delta V left to maneuver. I am doomed. I go in grim and laughing. The Adil Talal recovers me 2 days later. I spill exhausted from the drained-out cockpit into the arms of waiting medics. They try to hustle me to the emergency baths. I bat them away. I rise to my feet and I roar, gathered deck crew, all 9, all mine. And they roar with me, not adulation for the Princess Imperial, but love for their new ace. I am 35. It is later that the same night of my homecoming. Moly Amoli says my father has just finished his 5th tub of pulque and unbuttoned his imperial raiment. In the days of the praetorate, public intoxication carried the death penalty. Now my father dances among the miniature fleets, overturning 2-meter models of doomsday weapons and legions wish to be built. Make wonderful noise, stomp with me. Your Imperial Majesty, Moly Amoli says, laughing brightly, looking furtively between my father and the icy Advocate General. Umun Arath has requested that we take a quiet moment to honor those soldiers from far from the homeworld. Well, damn you, Umun, my father says cheerfully. I know what you are about. You want to drag your dour, dolorous diligence into my house of joy. You want us to remember it is you who makes it happen. your legions and your fleets. The Praetorate may be gone, but the Cabal is still a fighting empire, grim with the knowledge that all who come before us are swept away by the dark flood. And everyone who's not fighting on your front is a scavenger. Dead weight, is that right? Your Imperial Majesty, the Evocate General says neutrally. I thought only of tradition. Oh, tradition is it? Praetorate tradition, like your blood etched into your provings? Damn tradition. Tradition is how Old Force and Young reenact their miseries. He snaps his jaw shut, so suddenly there's a little thunder. Your daughter seems to be a fine pilot, Umunaroth says. Oh, she seems fine to you, does she? My father's face bulges before the sun-devouring maw of the wooden prototype. The actual warship will dampen gravity. Everyone else is absolutely silent, absolutely still. To go play in the grave womb of the worms, instead of being happy here on the homeworld in Torbottle, where she could share my joy. I should not speak, but I do. Father, I had a duty to the people, to serve. Duty, duty. He hurls the model like an accusation. What you had was a voice whispering in your ear, a poison in your tea, a pox in your blanket. The lie that everything is given value by its suffering and its strife. Everyone cowers before his shout, except Umun and me. This is what matters, he roars to Umun, not your dire legions and their grinding progress. You only exist to allow this party. This is the point. Even the drums have stopped. Can't any of you have any fun? Can't any of you live? Am I the only one here who's not utterly deranged? The only reason we don't all kill ourselves is that we feel good. The only reason we do anything at all, even breathing, is that it feels nice. That's the only way the universe has ever found to make existence tolerable. The only reason to exist is that fickle little quiver of reward the brain gives us for eating or drinking or dancing or working or freeing our people from the damned Pretorate or loving our daughter. That's all. That's worthwhile in life. Simulation of the three primary vagus nerves in our whole psyche weren't built on that need for that reward. What's the point if we can't have fun? What other point could there be? He stares straight at me, he says, as if my ears alone. I would have had 1,000 more young if only I could have made you happy. I am centuries old. The Scion meta-concert bridges my mind as the other conspirators, Otsat, conducts us from the Oxa machine replica. But it is Gaul whose basso thought resounds in me. He is the clean break we need, the clean break I need, from the Praetorate, and my father alike, the Ghost Primus who will resurrect our empire. All I have to do is play my part. But on that day unbidden, a memory comes to me. It is not mine. It is not Umunaroth's, because she never lets a stray thought slip. It's Gaul's. His fierce, acquisitive psyche wanders from its place. I see my father weeping. I hear my father confessing. And then, Gaul, I felt nothing. Nothing at all. It was as if all the grey stillness of my old Inui had flocked home from the days of the Praetorate and gathered in a murder above me so that all the world's tastes and terrors were shut out by their wings. I was thronged by well-wishers, but I was alone, like grit in the center of a pearl. My consort tried with all her art and patience to rouse me, but I would not be roused. I was alone again, save for that one precious life now brooding in me. One out of all the lives we had tried to make. This one survivor, and I felt that if this daughter left me, if she went out of me and into the world, I would be nothing. Nothing, utterly without sense or reason. And when I gave birth to my daughter, my beautiful star, I felt immovable pearls shatter around me. But ever since, I have feared that I will close again, and this time I will have no way to break it. And when I sense Gaul's memory of this moment is contempt. Contempt for a man who had everything and threw it all away in pursuit of mere sensation. And what I feel for the first time in my life is understanding. I understand my father all at once. I understand him. I'm exactly that old when I realize my father, the Emperor Callus, is full of shit. The selfishness of it, the sheer calumny to pretend that he did not. He did it all out of love for me, to insist that at the core of his festering psyche there is a foundational trauma which explains him. I could not feel, so I know I must feel everything. I could not want, so now I am a creature of unbridled appetites. I could not love, so oh my daughter, love me. I did it all because I would be afraid to be sad. The notion that all this man's conquests and excesses would be explained by his deep fear of anhedonia is nothing but It is bait he sets out for my heart. There will never be a moment when I understand my father. I already understand him. There will never be a final reconciliation. I am already reconciled. He is that he is. He is made by the praetorate, and he made out of his empire. He made me. And now I must make something out of myself. I already know my father, and I know him because he spent his whole life showing me who he is. The universe is not explained by the psychic terrain of knowable few. The cosmos is not subject to trite interior struggle. And my father does not deserve to be overthrown because I am nothing to him except his wish for someone to love him more and more. He deserves to be overthrown because he is a bad emperor. So I'm exactly that old when I close my mouth and say nothing at all of the coup to come. The weak wish for something to love them. The wish with the hunger of a whale to be loved, and their need grows in proportion to that hunger. The strong work to be worthy of love. And I will not be weak. Now, there are a couple chapters that I skip, but this mostly describes more of the feeling of what's Keitel, and it helps explain that relationship really well between her and Callus. And the whole marsupial thing was definitely neat to me. But hearing that Keitel and the way Amuna Wrath says Ayat, I'm like, oh no, is Keitel the name of like a home star for the world of Fundament? Because Umuna Wrath is also a very Hyvy name. And she was the one that was the doorway to create the overthrow or the destruction of Torabottle by Zivor Roth's forces. So she was in on it the whole time.
Yeah.
But there's a lot there. There's a lot going on there. I definitely recommend reading it over for yourself so you can kind of nitpick at it. But it's a lot. It's a longie for sure.
Yeah, because I really going to just set in the stage of like what's the frame, what Kyle's going to feel whenever you think she's going to be able to see Callus again and his new form.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really want to watch it again so I can see if I can spot his brood pouch in the video.
All right. It's time for the mailbag. Question 1. How was your time split in Destiny for subclass email from Bungie? So, if you signed up for the Bungie emails and stuff, you should have got an email this last week of how to vote and stuff like that for the skins and the trials map. And also in there, it had your breakdown of how much each subclass that you used over the last bit. So for me, I was 47% void, 29% solar, 16 arc, and 8 stasis, with my number one being Night Stalker, 2 gunslinger, and 3 sentinel.
I was looking at 40% void, 28 solar, 28 arc, and 4 stasis, and then sentinel, then striker, then sunbreaker. So I was doing lots of voidy boy stuff.
Mm-hmm. All 3 titans.
Yeah, I must have played a lot in the Void Season 2 because I was 43% Void, 33 Solar, 13 Arc, and 11 Stasis, Dawnblade, Voidwalker, Night Stalker are my 1, 2, and 3. Kind of surprised me. I use the Stasis a lot in like difficult content, but that just shows that when Destiny's not difficult, I don't change anything that I have equipped. It's pretty well just stays on. I'll change the weapons around, but I'm not going in and changing subclasses and those type of things. Just whatever I have will be fine. Maybe change the exotic to pair with the subclass. Question 2. Which bad guy in games that you have played do you most agree with? Not gonna lie, I thought this was kind of a hard question. I thought a lot about it. My answer is probably Final Fantasy 15's main boss Arden. Spoilers for like the next 20 to 30 seconds. But basically Arden's job was he was kind of like the king, and either his main thing was he either was going to live forever being the king, which he didn't really want to do, or he needed to die in order to not have to be the king like the rest of his entire life. So he kind of had to push the main character that you're playing the whole time, Noctis, in order to kill him. That way he could not be cursed to live forever in order to do what he was doing. That's a very basic form of it, but that's probably my answer.
Dang it, that's a really good one. I wish I remembered that because I when I was fighting him, I was like, "Oh, this is tragic."
Yeah.
It's so good. But yeah, I don't have any good answers for this. I mean, I guess Gaul. By the end of it, with what the speaker like drilled into his brain and like really, it really made you feel for him because he's like, "Dang it, like I did this wrong. I need to earn it," and then he finally just goes mad and kills everybody and does his thing. But that's as close as I could get off the top.
Yeah, I had, I just kind of looked inward and I'd be like, man, I really don't play a lot of video games. So just play Destiny. And then like in the other games I play, it's not a story. I go over to Overwatch or go over to Valorant. And it's just like, that's not really a narrative thing going up against anything. So I need to branch out. I need to do more.
I agree with that. Question number 3. Would you quit your current job to move to Seattle to work at Bungie, and you would make the equivalent of what you make now at your current job? So the way I took this was, would you move to Bungie to work on Destiny in order to, and like you maintain the same like quality of life based upon income? My answer would be no. I don't want to work on Destiny because if I worked on Destiny, I would not want to play Destiny whenever I got home.
Yeah, I would say no, but not because of that. I think it's just like moving across the country for the equivalent of what I have here is not worth it. Even though working with Bungie would be awesome, they would have to make it a pretty sweet deal, not equivalent.
What Jared said. I would totally do it if the money was right. It is cheaper to live out there than here for me. So
where I am.
So,
Yeah.
If I could live like I live currently and afford to live alone over there in a heartbeat, I'd be fine with that.
Question 4, the top 4 YouTube / Twitch streamers / content creators or / podcast people that you watch / listen to. There's a lot of slashes in that question there. Top of my head, Fallout, Dado, Aztec Cross, Kagan would probably be my top 4. Not necessarily in that order, but somewhere around there.
So you just stay Destiny stuff then. Okay.
Just all gamers.
Yeah. Right? For me, my YouTube stuff, it's for Destiny, it's Aztec. He's very entertaining. He does the best at getting the information out there in a very timely manner. So I think he's number 1 for me. Number 2, I watch this like golf podcast / just guys playing golf called Bob Does Sports. Pretty funny guys. I'd recommend that. Number 2, if I'm going straight podcast, it'd be Ryan Russillo. And then if you're not really into sports, just listen to the life advice segment. I don't think there's going to be anything that's more entertaining out there than that. And then number 4, I'm going to have to go with Dado because Dado just continues to put out. He's still Dado Wado. He still does. He's Mr. 2402. I mean, he's completely into it now. And he's just like, he's good.
I'd be like, hey, Dado, here's 10 grand if you get 2402 as a tramp stamp. I'll pay for it. We'll do it right now. I'll just hand it to you. Okay, so yeah, dang, Ryan went all gamers. Okay, so for Destiny, Dado Wado, he is my Dami Mommy. And then let's see, I go with the whole mythical channel, Good Mythical Morning, Mythical Kitchen. They're a bunch of fun people, stupid to watch, and I love it. If I'm feeling like I want something to just game and listen to for like an hour, I go to Sinvicta because he does daily run throughs of Binding of Isaac, and he has a really soothing voice, and he just sits there and talks through strategies and stuff. So I get better at playing by listening to him play because I can just kind of absorb his strats. But because he's doing runs of Isaac, it can be like an hour and a half long. Some of them have gone like 4 hours long, where he's just playing and going on like mega streaks of this stuff. And it's good to be mindless and just have the noise happening. And then after that, I don't know. I don't really do many podcasts. I don't watch too many Twitch things that aren't Dado or something else. I mean, I kind of bounce around. If I want something really different, I'll listen to some Harry Mack because he's great. Just one of the best freestyle rappers I've ever listened to. Definitely recommend that.
So, non-Destiny wise, I want to give a shout out to Pardon My Take, a lot of stuff from Barstool Sports, Bill Simmons, and Joe Rogan, obviously, and then last but not least, I would really like to give a shout out to No One Can Know About This podcast, where they go through and play every Final Fantasy game. It's one of the most unique podcasts that is out there, and / YouTube series, and we advertise there also. So I want to give them a little shout out. Well, last question before we wrap this thing up. Which game have you played the most over the course of your life? No Bungie game is allowed. So I had a lot of difficulty with this question. Typically, I would say Destiny or Destiny 2. And if that doesn't count, I would say the Halo series. But all those are taken away. So I would have to think it would be one of the Final Fantasy games. So I would probably say like Final Fantasy 7 or Final Fantasy 10 would probably be the most likely that I've played the most.
So,
and unless like I don't think I've played Super Mario Brothers or anything, because I feel like I've played like collectively the like Super Mario World, Super Mario Brothers 3, 1 and 2. Like if you add those all together, it might match those, but I don't think I've played either of those long enough individually to match those two games.
For me, I think Fox, I think this game is for you too that you might have looked over, but 2K. I mean, how many hours have you put in the 2K?
Yeah, that's probably 2K or Madden. I guess the hard part would be like nailing it down to one individual game of the 2K series.
I kind of look at 2K. It's almost was just a yearly subscription of $60 because the game really didn't change.
Yeah, from like 2K9 to like 2K18 was like the same game. You just paid $60 every year to keep playing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would probably be the answer as far as like series times. I would say it would be 2K.
Yeah, if I'm gonna pick another game, it's probably like Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2. I think was like the other standalone game that I spent most time in.
Okay. I don't have any games that I play this much. If it's going series based, it's gonna be Pokemans for sure. Like in just the ones on that I have on Switch, I have maybe 400 or 500 hours on just those, on just the Switch. And that's three different ones. So Sword and Shield, Diamond and Pearl, and Scarlet Violet.
And what's the Pokemon Go, the yellow remake or whatever?
Yeah. Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee. Yeah. Those ones were a little faster because they're basically Pokemon Go. So I only put like maybe 30 hours into those just to beat them and do stuff. But yeah, I mean the Pokemon series in general. If you counted up all the games, like I've legit put 100 hours into each one that wasn't an easy one, like Let's Go, since they came out. So that's a lot.
All right, I think that takes us to the end of the show. I want to remind everybody to, if you're watching us on YouTube, make sure you follow us on Spotify, iTunes, other podcast services. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at DestinyCCPod. Make sure you subscribe, unsubscribe, resubscribe, turn on the bell, click on the notifications, yada, yada, yada. I'm going to let these other two guys sign off here.
Last week of the season, the Wendigo is dropping in the Nightfalls. So if I'm probably going to be around as much as possible that week to do some Grandmasters. So if you're around, hit me up. I'll be LFGing if nobody's on. If people's on to play with, I'll be trying to get through those or do some more boss clears, Aspire to try to get that cowboy hat.
I'll definitely try to be hitting you up on that one. I'll add you to my friends list and stuff to get that worked out. But yeah, I mean, we're in for another good piece of lore, another good chonky boy next week with the LC Bray, but also the event, the final mission that's happening on Tuesday. So depending on how much info happens then, I might spread out the LC to 2 weeks. But we'll see. Be excited. Be ready. I'm ready.
And as always, go Cats. Love you guys.